could say Tim Richmond, he really lit up the tracks as much as he lit up Victory Lane and the garage and everywhere that he went. In 1986, he won 7 races, more than anybody else that year. And Richmond's excitement and spontaneity left a permanent mark on fans of the sport. We're really proud here to display his 1986 Miller High Life 500 Winners Trophy, along with the 1987 Monte Carlo, which is from his last year of competition, in which he won 2 of the races in only 7 starts. And here with us today is Tim Richmond's sister, Miss Sandra Welsh. This is here Michelle Leopold, our collections manager, and they're going to unveil the car for us.
I'm not sure where to start with this one, because I think if there's a word that I hear most used with Tim, it's charisma, that he had incredible charisma. I've also heard a number of times that I think it's common belief, had Tim continued to race, it's questionable if Earnhardt wins 7 championships. What is your recollection of Tim? And, what are the things that people ask you the most, or the stories they tell you the most about Tim?
It's amazing after this many years how many people still stay in contact with me, or I go to things like this and run into people that have all these stories. I'd love to sit down with all of them and tape it all. It's funny, a lot of them I haven't heard. Everyone liked him. He was, friendly, the girls loved him. And he would be late to drivers' meetings because he wouldn't stop signing autographs. He was so afraid that he never wanted to get booed. That was not acceptable. So if he gets chewed out at the drivers' meeting, so be it. I'm going to handle my fans.
When he come across the stage, when he came in was about the time I started broadcasting. He bounced across the stage. He had a huge grin on his face. Talking about stories about Tim Richmond, we've got a couple of folks here who raced with him and against him. Larry McReynolds, you raced against Tim Richmond and you saw his competitiveness and also him off the track. Talk about your recollections and perspectives of Tim Richmond, the competitor.
Yeah, actually I was fortunate enough to work with him twice during his career. The young race team that I was working for in 1981, we were fortunate enough to get Tim the last 6 races of the year that year, that he run the 37 car. And I know the biggest thrill that I got that year was watching Tim Richmond run Riverside, California. If you never got a chance to see Tim Richmond run Riverside, California, you need to find a tape, because he would go up through the S's, and I'm not sure he ever touched the asphalt the entire time he was going up through the S's at Riverside. And then in 1983, when Raymond Beadle started the Blue Max team that Tim was a driver for, I was actually the tire specialist and the truck driver, and my wife and I were going to leave to go to Atlanta with the truck late one evening, the day before the track opened. Tim came by the shop and asked me what time we were leaving, and I told him. He said, "I think I'll just ride with you in the truck." Well, when I went to get in the driver's side of the cab, Tim was sitting there, and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm driving the truck to Atlanta." Well, I vowed after that trip, if he ever wanted to ride with me again, I would make sure he put the keys in my pocket, and he would be a ride driver of the transport hauler. But I don't think anyone can do Tim Richmond justice in telling you how much raw talent there was in that individual. He couldn't tell you a thing about what that race car was doing, but you knew every lap he made, whether it was practice, qualifying, or the race, you were getting 110% out of Tim Richmond.
I think one of the best compliments I've heard about Tim is that Dale Earnhardt would say he's one of the only ones, if not the only one, that Dale felt like could race with him. A guy that you'll meet as a part of one of the displays, maybe the most famous gas man in NASCAR history. Danny Chocolate Myers is with us. Chocolate, tell us about you guys, and especially Dale's admiration for and respect for Tim.
Well, let me start out by saying this. Tim Richmond was the coolest guy that ever walked through the garage area. And I say that in a compliment. I'm telling you, this guy, when he walked in, heads were turning. You noticed Tim Richmond in the garage area. You also noticed him on the racetrack. But yes, you're right, Winston. Dale Earnhardt, Tim Richmond, they both had what it would take. And they both showed it on the racetrack. I got to tell you a couple quick stories. One of them, we were at Pocono, Pennsylvania one year. Tim Richmond was leading the race. We were at halfway, and it rained. And we were we were one lap short of halfway, and it rained. Tim was leading the race. We were running second. And just to be quite honest with you, we wanted it to be over with because we knew the next day, if we raced again, we'd have to race against Tim Richmond. And the next day, on a Monday, we finished the race. We run the rest of the race. We run the whole 500 miles. At the end of the day, Tim Richmond won the race, and Dale Earnhardt was second. So we spent that other day, the other half of the day, doing the same thing we was doing on race day. But you talked about Tim Richmond being friends with everybody. He was certainly my friend. In Darlington, South Carolina, we were leaving the racetrack one day, and I had all the guys loaded up in the truck, and we started out of the tunnel at Darlington. And when you would go out of the tunnel, you would go down a pretty steep hill, and right when we started down the tunnel, somebody said, "Hey, I left my keys at the truck. We got to go back." I put the truck in reverse to back up, to get back out of the tunnel, and Tim Richmond had pulled up behind me, and I ran all the way over the hood of the Pontiac that he was driving that day, and he got out and laughed about it, never said another word about it. But Tim Richmond, a great competitor, coolest dude ever at the racetrack, and a friend.
How about a big round of applause for Sandy Wells?